I just got married in November. My new husband's ex-wife wants to be in our lives, and it makes me uncomfortable. They do not have any children. They were pretty close when we met, and I thought the dynamic was strange. Like she bought him cat litter and other household things, almost like a mother would do for a college kid. She liked to be relied on for help. She has always been overly nice to me and supportive of our relationship. When we all hung out, she only talked about their memories while they were married. She is loud and overbearing and talks to him with disrespect. They work for the same company, both remotely, but other than that, have nothing in common at all, besides the past. She is much older than him, and they married when he was very young. They never had a good marriage. Toxic. On again, off again. They have been divorced for 6 years. We've been together for 2.5 years. He thinks I'm just being insecure. I think there's some weird codependent mommy trauma bond still happening. I asked that I not have to hang out with her anymore. I am allowed to choose who I am friends with and spend my time with, and I don't want to spend it uncomfortable with her. The issue is my husband and I put on live shows at clubs around town, and she has used that opportunity to show up and make us hang out with her. He sees it as her just being supportive, and what's wrong with that? But I find it manipulative, and her again just trying to be close and relevant in his life. I asked that he ask her not to show up to our shows anymore because it makes us uncomfortable. He gets uncomfortable because he sees I'm uncomfortable, and he did, but it's caused a big rift. He thinks I'm being mean to someone just trying to be nice because I'm insecure. I feel like he's saying he demands I be uncomfortable so his ex-wife can be comfortable, and he is refusing to cut the inappropriate cord he has with his ex. Any insights or opinions? Edit. Of course, I addressed these feelings and concerns from the very beginning of our relationship. I did try to be cool with it and give it a chance, but ultimately I decided it was inappropriate, and I did not want to have any part of a relationship with her or her in my life. They work together and have mutual friends, so going no contact is difficult. We have not seen her socially in over a year, except for when she comes to shows. They do not hang out. The issue is these shows because they are public events, and she knows she doesn't need our permission to be there. After the last show she came to, before our wedding, my husband and I had a discussion, and he said he would talk to her about not coming to shows anymore because he saw how uncomfortable I was, and that made him uncomfortable too. But he didn't. I asked him to follow through when I suspected she was planning to come to the last show. She shared the flyer on social media, and he did, but it upset her a lot, and then he was very upset with me. She's not in our life, but she is seemingly relentless about wanting to be. Also, she is married to an even much younger man now, 10 years younger than my husband. They have been together since my husband and her were still living together. He is even more dependent, and he is okay with their relationship. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. While I agree their dynamic sounds bizarre, it sounds like they've had the same relationship since you met him. If it never changed while you were dating, and he never agreed to cutting contact with her when you got married, I don't know why you would expect him to suddenly change his mind. This was an issue to resolve before getting married. Since you didn't, you need to decide whether or not it's a deal breaker for you. Comment 2. Ouch. Why on earth did you marry this guy when you knew he was like this? He sees nothing wrong with the codependent relationship with his ex, so you're not going to be able to get his butt to counseling. Honestly, you have to either live with it or dump him, because at 38 and having imprinted on this creepy older woman like a baby chick, he's not going to change. Now for the update. Hey Reddit, back again with an update on the ex-wife saga. It's been 3 days since I last posted, and boy, do I have some news for you. So after my last post, things took a turn for the worse. My husband and I had another show scheduled, and despite the talk he had with his ex about not showing up, guess who decided to make an appearance? Yep, you guessed it. She was there, front and center, cheering louder than anyone else. It was like she was trying to prove a point. Now, let me give you a bit of history on her current husband. He's a young guy, pretty naive, and seems to be completely under her thumb. He was there too, looking like a lost puppy, following her around. It's clear that she has a pattern of latching on to younger men. During the show, she made it a point to come up to the stage and request a song they used to listen to when they were married. My husband, bless his heart, tried to brush it off, but the damage was done. I could see the discomfort on his face, and it matched my own. After the show, she cornered us, and that's when things got really heated. She started reminiscing about their past, completely ignoring my presence. When I tried to interject, she snapped at me, saying that I was just the new wife and didn't understand the bond they shared. My husband finally stepped in, but instead of defending me, he tried to play peacemaker, which only made things worse. The confrontation escalated when she accused me of trying to isolate my husband from his friends and past. She claimed that I was the toxic one, trying to control who he could and couldn't see. It was like she was trying to rewrite history, ignoring the fact that their marriage had been anything but healthy. Now, let's not forget that this woman has a history of being overbearing and loud. She's always had this way of talking to my husband that borders on disrespectful, and it was on full display during our argument. It was clear that she still saw him as that young man she could manipulate and control. The injustice of it all is that my husband still doesn't see the problem. He's so used to her behavior that he brushes it off as her being supportive. But it's not support, it's manipulation, plain and simple. She's using her past with him to wedge herself into our lives, and it's causing a rift between us. The next day, my husband and I had a long talk. I reminded him of the countless times she had overstepped boundaries, like when she bought him cat litter and other household items, treating him like a child. I pointed out that her behavior hadn't changed since their divorce, and it was affecting our marriage now. He admitted that he felt torn. On one hand, he saw my discomfort and wanted to support me. On the other, he felt guilty for cutting someone out who had been a significant part of his life. I could see the internal struggle he was going through, but I stood my ground. I told him that our marriage had to come first, and that meant setting clear boundaries with his ex. The climax came when we discovered that she had been spreading rumors about me to their mutual friends and colleagues. She was painting me as the jealous, insecure wife who was trying to erase my husband's past. It was infuriating to hear that people were actually believing her twisted version of events. My husband was shocked when he heard about the rumors. It seemed to be the wake-up call he needed. He realized that her actions were not just affecting our personal life, but our professional one as well. He finally agreed that it was time to have a serious conversation with her about respecting our boundaries. So, he called her up, and I could hear the tension in his voice as he laid it all out. He told her that her behavior was unacceptable and that she needed to stop attending our shows and spreading lies about me. She tried to argue, but he stood firm. It was the first time I'd seen him truly stand up to her. After the call, he turned to me, and I could see the apology in his eyes. He had finally seen the situation for what it was, and he promised that he would do better in protecting our relationship from her interference. Fiancé comes home from job interview and gets mad I didn't greet him at door. Then he tells me why, and I'm shocked. Posting as a throwaway because my fiancé knows my username. My fiancé came home yesterday after a job interview, and I was in the kitchen watering our plants. I work from home and had just finished work. He greeted me verbally, and I said, "Hey, I'm watering the plants back here," so he knew where I was. I assumed he'd come back to the kitchen to hug me. Usually he does, but this time he didn't. I continued watering the plants, and I heard the shower go on. 20 minutes later, he came to the kitchen and didn't say anything. I said, "Why didn't you come say hello? What's wrong?" And he said, "Was it really that important for you to water the plants at that moment? Why couldn't you come to the door to greet me? You knew I had an interview today." I didn't say anything because I was honestly confused, then got pretty frustrated. I've never thought about who greets whom first because it's never been an issue before. I work at home, and he has never expected me to get up from my chair to greet him, though I have definitely done that. Also, for context, he called me twice that day while I was working for some feedback on interview questions. I answered and helped him both times, and I also called him after his interview to see how it went. I tried to discuss this with him afterward, and he shut down completely after simply saying, "You knew I had a lot on my plate today, and you didn't greet me because watering the plants was more important." I said I was just doing a chore at home. If I came home and you were in the middle of doing something, I would never expect you to drop everything. I would come find you as I normally do, and you do the same for me. It felt like an incredibly childish reaction, and not like him. He ignored me for the rest of the night. I'm definitely an overthinker, but in this case, I have no idea what the heck is going on. This isn't like him to start an inane conflict like that, but he does tend to stonewall during conflict. The fact that it even became a conflict is embarrassing. What could be happening with him? Could he be having cold feet for the wedding? Update, thank you for all the responses. When he came home from work today, I was on the phone and he came to kiss me on the forehead. He opened up the conversation about what happened the previous night and apologized for acting childish. He didn't bomb the interview. He actually was offered the job on the spot and was extremely excited to tell me, and felt rejected when he called out to me twice and heard no response. I told him that his feelings of rejection were upsetting to me, but illogical because I'd helped him throughout the day, and he should assume better of me based on how I treat him, and the stonewalling was 100% unacceptable. He has agreed to do couples counseling to help work out communication issues before the wedding. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. He is acting like a child. My husband and I rarely physically greet each other at the door. I come home with arms loaded and need to take out the dogs. My husband has his work stuff and also takes out the dogs. I sometimes call out, "Hey babe," but this isn't something we do. If this is so important to your fiancé, then he should probably communicate like a grown man. He's pouting and acting like a petulant toddler. Also, refusing to discuss an issue and then giving the silent treatment is a huge red flag. No one deserves the silent treatment. It causes confusion, doubt, and anxiety. Some people have said it's a form of emotional abuse. It sure does feel like it when it's happening to you. Comment 2. It sounds like he had a bad day or something happened and it came out on you. Maybe give him time to calm down and see if he will talk about it today. I definitely don't think it deserved that kind of reaction at all. Also, nothing bad with greeting each other. Me and my boyfriend do that every day, and it's usually just who gets to who first. If I've been home and he comes home from work, he'll come to me. If he's home before me after work, I'll go to him. I don't think there needs to be set rules to it, unless, like someone said below, he's looking for a 50s type housewife. Now for the update. Hey everyone, it's been 2 weeks since my last post, and boy, do I have an update for you all. Things have been, let's just say, unexpected. After my fiancé and I had that weird confrontation about the whole greeting at the door situation, we had a few days of peace. He started his new job and I was swamped with a big project, so we were both pretty busy. But then one evening, he came home with this strange look on his face. I knew something was up, but I couldn't put my finger on it. He sat me down and confessed that he had been feeling overwhelmed with the wedding planning, his new job, and some unresolved issues from his past. He told me about his previous relationship, where his ex would constantly expect him to drop everything for her the moment she walked in the door. It was a form of control for her, and it left him feeling like he couldn't have his own space or time. He realized that he had unfairly projected some of those feelings onto me during our little spat. I was shocked. I had no idea about this part of his history. We've always been open with each other, but I guess this was something he hadn't been ready to share until now. It explained a lot about his reaction that day, but it didn't excuse the stonewalling. We decided to go ahead with the couple's counseling, and it was intense. We both had to confront some uncomfortable truths about ourselves and our relationship. It was during one of these sessions that my fiancé dropped another bombshell. He admitted that he had been feeling insecure about his new job. On his first day, he had a run-in with a coworker who seemed to have it out for him from the get-go. This coworker was constantly undermining him and making snide remarks. It was taking a toll on his confidence, and he was bringing that stress home without realizing it. But here's the twist. One day, I decided to surprise him for lunch at his new workplace. I wanted to see him in his element and maybe get a feel for the environment he was in. That's when I saw him with the coworker who had been giving him a hard time. They weren't just talking, they were laughing together, looking close. Too close. My heart sank. I felt like I was in one of those dramatic movies where the protagonist's world comes crashing down around them. I confronted him about it that night, and after a long, emotional conversation, he confessed that the coworker was someone he had a brief fling with years ago, before we met. They had reconnected, and the tension at work was actually unresolved attraction. I was devastated. Not only had he kept this from me, but he had also allowed this person to come between us. He swore nothing physical had happened since he started his job, but the emotional betrayal stung just as much. We were at a crossroads. The trust we had built was shaken, and with the wedding looming over us, we had to make some tough decisions. We agreed to put the wedding on hold and focus on rebuilding our relationship. It was a bitter pill to swallow, but we both knew it was necessary. The counseling sessions continued, and we worked through our issues. It was hard, and there were moments when I wasn't sure if we could make it. But we both put in the effort. He cut off all contact with the coworker and started looking for a new job. He wanted to prove to me that he was committed to us and to our future together. As for the wedding, we're still figuring things out. We're taking it one day at a time, focusing on the love we have for each other and the life we want to build together. It's not the fairy tale ending I had imagined, but maybe it's the start of something more real and more honest. Husband ignores me and our IVF miracle baby, and I find out he's been lying. I, 35-year-old female, am feeling so confused about my husband's 36-year-old male behavior. We had our IVF miracle baby 5 months ago, and although I thought he would be a great dad, he has been distracted and moody. The baby is great, she sleeps, eats, etc. I've taken on the majority of the physical and mental load. All he has to do is watch her for a few minutes in the evening before bed. He works from home 3 days a week and can play with her anytime, but he often says he's too busy. I looked at his phone usage, and it's often 8 hours. After work, he usually goes outside to do jobs, but it's always during the little time he could spend one-on-one with her. I've begged him to leave the jobs, but he says they're all necessary. He's great at making sure I have food and water most days. I know he thinks what he's doing is good, but it's really just the bare minimum. We've been fighting a lot, and he accuses me of creating a negative narrative about him or not setting him up for success. However, I bring the baby to him, talk to him about her even when he has no questions, and tell him what she likes, etc. His attention is fleeting, though. Since she was born, he's had about 5 nights out, a work trip, and just came back from a bachelor party where he didn't even text me to say he was okay. He goes to the gym 4 times a week, has a Sunday morning run club, and generally his life hasn't changed. I'm okay with that, and I support him because he says he needs those things for his mental health. He always says he's exhausted and can't sleep. After the 2-week paternity leave, he slept in another room for about 7 weeks because we co-sleep, and that was one of the rules. But he demanded to come back into the room. He's woken her up multiple times, but still claims he can't sleep. The biggest change he's mentioned since our daughter came along is sleeping with the light on. We keep a side light on so I can see the baby, and he wears an eye mask. He has a persistent cough that often wakes her up, but most of the time I don't let him know. His reaction is always over the top, rolling his eyes and looking sad. But come on, I don't get a break. I can barely shower. I breastfeed and baby wear. The only new tasks he has since the baby is making evening meals sometimes. I still cook about 3 times a week and filling the dishwasher, which I also do when I can. When he has downtime, he never helps. If our daughter is asleep, he doesn't think there's anything he can do and just leaves. He doesn't help with laundry and barely cleans. What can I do to help? I've looked into counseling, but I don't think we can afford it. Right now, I'm here with our sleeping 5-month-old daughter, and he is downstairs on the sofa watching TV because he's hungover from a 2-night bachelor party where he drank and took drugs. Can someone please help? What is going on? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Throw the entire husband away. I sometimes feel with this type of attitude men have that it is truly more of an inconvenience having them around than not. I would communicate and issue an ultimatum if you can get marital and child support and see if he starts acting like an actual father and husband. It will surprise you how big of a coward men can be and what happens when they are actually threatened with reality. Comment 2. He's great and will make sure most days I have food and water. Are you a horse? No. This is the barest of minimums in a partner who is now a new parent. Put someone you trust with your baby on call. Show him how to do what he needs to do for your child. Install baby monitors, hand him the baby, and leave the house for at least 1 hour. You don't have to go far if you're worried. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, a lot has happened since my last post about my husband's behavior after we had our IVF miracle baby. I'm feeling so confused and need to vent. So my husband, let's call him Mark, has been even more distant lately. Remember how I said he was moody and distracted? Well, it's gotten worse. He's been spending more time working in his home office, but I've noticed that when he's supposed to be working, he's actually playing video games. I walked in on him once, and he quickly switched the screen, but I saw it. It's like he's living a double life. We had a huge fight about it. I told him that he's not being fair to me or our daughter. He got defensive and said that he needs time to unwind. But what about my time? I'm with our daughter all day, every day. I barely have time to eat or shower, and he's in there playing games. And then there's his phone usage. It's still at 8 hours a day, sometimes more. I asked him about it, and he said it's for work, but I saw messages from his friends about meeting up for drinks and stuff. It's like he's planning a whole social life without me. But here's the jaw-dropping part. One day, I was doing laundry and found a receipt in his pocket for a fancy restaurant. It was dated for a night when he said he was working late. I confronted him, and he said it was a work dinner, but I called the restaurant, and they said it was a table for 2. I don't know what to think. He's also been going out more. Remember those nights out and the bachelor party? Well, now it's like every other weekend he's got something, and he still doesn't text me to check in. I feel like I'm a single parent. The other day, I was so exhausted, I asked him to watch our daughter for an hour so I could take a nap. He said he would, but when I woke up, she was crying in her crib, and he was nowhere to be found. Turns out he went to the gym without telling me. I was furious. We've talked about counseling, but he says we can't afford it. I think we can't afford not to go. Our marriage is falling apart, and I don't know how to fix it. But here's the misunderstanding. Last week, I was talking to my sister about everything, and she suggested that maybe Mark is feeling overwhelmed too. She pointed out that he's never been a dad before, and maybe he's struggling with the changes. I hadn't thought about it like that. I've been so focused on how hard it's been for me that I didn't consider his feelings. So I decided to try and talk to him. I waited until our daughter was asleep, and I approached him calmly. I asked him if he was okay and if he was feeling overwhelmed. He broke down. He told me that he's been feeling like a failure as a dad and a husband. He said he's been trying to escape because he doesn't know how to cope. I was shocked. I had no idea he was feeling this way. We talked for a long time, and he apologized for not being there for me and our daughter. He promised to do better. Since then, things have been a little better. He's been spending more time with our daughter and helping around the house. But I'm still cautious. I don't know if this change will last. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.